Welcome to the Charity Matters podcast. I'm Heidi Johnson, nonprofit founder, storyteller, and lifelong helper. For more than a decade, I've been amplifying the voices of modern day heroes, people who are solving real problems with heart and courage and service. As we launch this new season and celebrate over 100 episodes, we continue the mission of helping the helpers and reminding the world that meaningful change happens one small act of kindness at a time. Have you ever thought of the arts as a cure for someone with learning disabilities or someone with autism? Well, today's guest has. I'm so excited to have Diane and Scott Strand, the founders of JDS Creative Academy, join us today to share their incredible journey and our inspiring conversation about all that the Strands are doing to make an enormous difference in our world. I'm so excited to have Diane and Scott Strand joining us today. Welcome. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
We're so excited to have you. So let's just start out, and maybe Diane, you want to tell us what JDS Creative Academy does.
Well, JDS Creative Academy is a nonprofit 501c3 that really has the mission of visual performing and digital art to enhance life and creativity and business. And we do that through lots of different programs for youth, teens, and adults, both mainstream and special needs, to help them learn the power of the arts so that they can utilize the tools. And we do a lot of hands-on training with the arts so you can really just step in and be involved so you know how to use it for career pathways, workforce development, as well as independence.
I love that. That's fantastic. So I always say that never in the history of the world has someone said when they were little, when I grow up, I want to be a nonprofit founder. That has never happened, ever, ever, ever. So Scott, we're going to start with you. When you were younger, was there any inkling that you would be in this work? Did you have like role models? Did you have any philanthropic leanings? Was there anything that you ever thought you would end up in this space?
No, not at all. I from a very young age, I just wanted to be an actor. And that was because my mother was an actress, and I just kind of knew at some point that's what I was going to do. And so I never would have imagined this. Even, 15 years ago, if you had told me, I probably would not have imagined this. No, it was really see a need, fill a need is really how it sort of came to us. And we just leaned in and said, well, okay, if this is the path, this is what we're going to do.
I love that. Well, everyone always knows the path, but Diane, what about you? I mean, it's interesting because when you talk about the path, we are always so busy looking at the path ahead, especially as nonprofit founders, how much money we're going to raise, how many people we're going to help. It's always a forward path. But these conversations are important because we don't stop often enough to look back at the path that got us here. And so, Diane, what about you? Did you have anything in your childhood or any role model or anything you can look back and think, gosh, I guess the path did lead me this direction?
Well, I always say you can't connect your dots looking forward. You have to look back. And that's a great Steve Jobs quote. And I say my dot really showed up first and second grade. And that tells me exactly why I am where I am and what I'm doing is I was a precocious little second grader who just wanted to play Betsy Ross in the school play. And everyone told me that I couldn't or I shouldn't. And I was a struggling reader. Turns out at that time I was an undiagnosed dyslexic little girl who couldn't read. but somehow I figured it out how to get the role of Betsy Ross in the school play. And it was always the arts that kept me connected to
Oh, okay.
school, to learning, to education, to growing beyond my needs. And not that I was ever able to put that in any kind of perspective as I was living through it. And I
Right.
never had these big altruistic kind of things that were going on in my life, but I always knew that kindness mattered. And when things got, you know, Scott and I come from the Hollywood background and industry, and when things got a little too intense, I guess you could say, in the environment that wasn't such a kind, friendly place as we were becoming rather successful in this industry, instinctually, it was, something that made us shift and change. I don't know that we put a finger on it or what it was, but it led us to where we are. And now
Right.
that we have that hindsight, I love to connect. And I always tell the people that we work with, look at where you were even just a year ago. It's going to
Right.
tell you why you are exactly where you're at right now.
Right. I love that. You're my people because that is exactly, I mean, we're constantly forward setting projections and goals and standards, but you got to stop and say, hey, look how far we've come. And if we don't, people don't do that enough. But I love that. And also as the mother of two dyslexic sons and one married to one very dyslexic husband, my high school boyfriend, who wasn't diagnosed till his senior year in college and was failing out of college, undiagnosed with dyslexia in the late 80s. I get that. I absolutely get that. And I think my boys use sports the way you used arts, but I think, and my husband as well, but it's the same coping mechanism, right? That you have to use to adapt to kind of get through it.
I
So,
always pair athletics and the arts
Yeah.
together. Yeah.
right, because you need a vehicle or a tool as an outlet. I mean, I taught my son really to homework skills by throwing footballs. We would do spelling bees and we would do everything. He just needed to move to learn, and so he was a kinesthetic learner, and that's just kind of how we figured it out. But oh, yes, I don't miss those days. I don't miss those days at all. It's all good. It's all good. It's whatever we do to get through it, right? So, Scott, talk to me. I feel like everybody, you're an actor. You guys had this, successful career in the business, as we say here in LA. And so what were the dots that started coming together when you realized, and who said it first? Was it Diane or Scott? This is maybe a newlywed game question. Um, who said it first? Who just said maybe we should do this? So give me a little bit of the backstory of how you came to this place.
Depends which question you're asking.
And
Well, I
it's
can.
not a credit. No one gets credit for who said it first or whose idea it was. Just
So
the
as
story is
okay,
great.
as an entrepreneurs, what happened was we were both working way too long of hours. We had had our son Joshua, and I was literally taking him on auditions with me in his stroller, and he even got to audition when he was like, I don't know, 18 months old. Like, reach under the table, pretend you're grabbing gum was his note as he was under a table. And he really didn't care much for it. And I would basically roll him in and ask the casting assistant, do you mind? He's very cool. He's just going to hang in his thing. And they were like, oh, sure. Okay. So it was just a lot. And I was also working, tutoring at a college and managing restaurants. And so I was trying to balance all of that. And I had gone back and gotten my film degree. So I had a bachelor's in film directing. And it was after I had graduated, and she was working long, like 16-hour days.
Oh,
She had gone from a very cool producing job in the pharmaceutical industry, producing videos, and moved back into reality television. And it was brutal, long days. And she would leave before he got up in the morning, and she would come home after I'd already put him to bed. So she was
wow.
not a happy camper. And
No,
so,
mama needs her babies. Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
after I had graduated and I had my degree, I kind of looked over one night. She came in late. We're getting into bed. And I said, hey, what if? What if we sold the house, moved back down to North County, San Diego, and invested everything in a biotech and medical production company? I said, you know how to produce and write. I know how to film and edit. We should just do it on our own. And she said,
Yes. And that was 23 years ago, to
Wow.
really start the entrepreneurship. But uh, 13 years ago, when we really launched the nonprofit, it really grew organically out of the fact that we had had our successful video production multimedia company that at that point had been going for about 10, 12 years, in the process of entrepreneurship. We had started an actor studio that grew out of a drama club that we were running at the elementary schools. And so we were we were starting to launch actors back into the entertainment industry. And it was, can you do plays and musical theater? Can you teach script writing and filmmaking? So a lot of people were coming to us as these industry professionals, and we looked at each other and we were like, well, we would love to fill all of this, but there's only 24 hours in a day, and
Right.
how do we do this?
Right.
So
Right.
we pulled together all of our industry friends, and we had done this actually 30 years before. When we were trying to get discovered as actors in Hollywood, we created Images and Imagination Children's Theater, which was putting on plays in LA and busing in kids. And it was all us unemployed actors trying to get discovered. Well, we pulled together all our industry professional friends who were working and making a living and said, let's create a nonprofit to where we can really do more with the arts. And it really started at that point as more of an extracurricular community arts program that began. But my business philosophy is show up and say yes. And we were at a chamber event talking about the nonprofit that we had created. And that's how we really fell into working with adults with developmental disabilities, because it was one more time one of those what if questions that,
Right.
what if you just brought in an adult who loved audio and you helped him learn audio through your production company? Okay, let's try that. And so we did,
Wow.
and it was like if we can teach one, maybe we can teach many, and that's how the title 17. And that's really entrepreneurship 101 that evolved into this nonprofit, this bigger mission of doing things. Now we're on a mission to move the arts across America. So it's really this whole propulsion of just doing more, doing better, being kinder, and how do we do that? And that's why I love the arts. And it was easier and more fulfilling to do it as a nonprofit because we could
Right.
grow more as an arts in that way,
Right.
because it really does impact so much more. So, again, connecting those dots, I see it now in hindsight, but it was just very organic in, well, what if? And Scott asked me a what if question, and we left successful Hollywood careers to be entrepreneurs. And then it's like, well, what if we just did more and pulled in more people and created a nonprofit so we could do more and have access to be able to help more? And then it's, yeah, let's hire
Right.
that. Let's start a whole new program. And then why wouldn't we teach adults with developmental disabilities? Because not that I ever looked at it that way, but
Right.
dyslexia is a neurodivergent
Right.
uh, disability.
It,
So,
it, it is. It is for sure. So Scott, I mean, you both of you had the in the nonprofit space because everyone who founds one isn't an entrepreneur, but you guys were already entrepreneurs. So you had a huge advantage, whether you realize it or not, because you've already at least built a successful business and you know what building a business looks like. And this is just a different model of a business that obviously relies on the kindness of others, which is a whole other Oprah about what kind of business model the nonprofits are. But But talk to me about some of the challenges going from having a successful business. And I know it was a slow ramp up. It sounds like you were trying to run both in transition, but talk to me about some of those challenges in the early days. You have a child, you still have laundry, you have a life, and you are taking on more and more, it sounds like, as the need is getting bigger and being brought to you. And then you have to decide, do you let go of what you have, or talk to me about some of those challenges in transitioning to a nonprofit and what that all looked like for you guys.
Well, the big thing was a lot of what we did with the actor studio is in the evenings. So Monday night, Tuesday night, Thursday nights, I'm here late and I'm teaching classes. What we normally did was we were at home working on our production company and servicing clients, going to their offices, and it was mainly corporate video in the medical biotech world. But we had the city of Temecula, the Chamber, Riverside County, so we had a lot of big clients that we were servicing. But that was all during the day. So when the nonprofit started ramping up, we were like, oh, okay, well, maybe we need to be at the studio, full time. So we kind of moved our offices to the studio. And of course, we expanded from a very small little place. Our first brick and mortar was just the actor's studio in a little business park. And then through Diane's connections and people in the city, she found a much bigger space for us to grow into. So we kind of made, growing the building was growing the nonprofit. And when we started it, the first gentleman was amazing. And then we actually launched the Title 17 program with 5 people. So 5 adults with
Wow.
disabilities came in. And that was really
Wow.
just, me kind of showing them cameras and doing some videos and here's a cool frame, shoot this, isn't this cool? And just kind of working that way. So it really was a natural progression to what I was already doing and loved doing. One was the acting. So we still include improvisation exercises and acting in the day program. So it's not only about learning the technical side of it, it's about being talent. So they are doing their own television show, their own radio show. So they have to practice their voiceover. They have to be on stage and practice their physical presence. So it really became a natural transition into what we're already doing. And of course,
Wow.
with our clients that we serviced in the production company, they jumped on board and like, well, how can we help you? That was the
Oh, isn't that
amazing
the best? That's the
having
best.
those people who are already want to sponsor and already want to be involved when they learned that we had opened up this nonprofit. So that was really heartfelt that they supported us from the beginning.
I love that. So, Diane, talk to me. I mean, you're a mom, you're juggling this nonprofit, you're juggling life. You know, it's people, I think, when you're doing a business and you don't get a film made for someone or you don't get a product made, it's like, all right, they're going to be upset, my clients will be mad, whatever, but you can go to bed at night, it's be fine. But when you have a special needs person who is relying on you for something and you still have to take care of your son and do the bills and do the laundry or whatever you have to do, um, it can be really overwhelming because our work, we carry the weight of others on our shoulders in a way that other businesses do not. So talk to me about what fueled you to keep going when the demands were really overwhelming and you thought, oh my gosh, what have we done? Like, how did we get here and what have we done? What fueled you to keep going in those moments?
Well, I would say one kid turned into 3 kids. So we have 3 children and they're all JDS. And they're
Oh,
very involved in the studio. They take a very big part. I mean, now at this point, they're 26, almost 22, and almost 18. And they grew up in the arts, they grew up in the theater, they grew up being a part of this and knowing what we're doing. So, they've bought in 100%. Challenges are real, growing pains are real, and they happen, and we definitely experience them and still experience them as we change
right.
and grow. But I have to also say, amazing team when we really started the nonprofit, even in some of the rockier times of the early years and in the growing pains, there were people there who were stepping up and were a part of it. Some of those people are still here today that are, the founding part of the board members and the people who stepped in when we opened the program that are here, and some that have been here, you know, one person was with us all the way back probably 20 years into our production company and is still here with us and supporting.
Wow.
And so, it's really true. You really are the product of the five people that you kind of surround yourself with the most. And
Right.
for the most part, the closest people to us are people that we can count on and support us. And, I would say we haven't given up much. We just keep adding to the plate. Thankfully, our production company still exists. We still work for the city and the chamber and the school districts and biotech and medical and big and small business. We're still launching actors. And then we have the thriving nonprofit. There's 16 staff members now
Wow.
that work here. And so it really is a team. It's, that supports everybody is a professional creative in their own way that works here and then really just does the nonprofit stuff as all hands on deck, kind
Right.
of thing, and understand that we operate off of a nonprofit budget. So,
Yeah,
so
right. Which is a whole other thing. So Scott, talk to me. You mentioned 16 staff, which by the way, that's bravo. That is really phenomenal. Um, Impact is a word that I have a serious love-hate relationship with because, and I would think also in your industry, I run a youth leadership organization, measuring leadership, measuring how you change the life of a student and give them a skill like you're giving students skills, that's an immeasurable thing, and no grant and no number, no statistic can really measure when you change a life the way that you're doing it and what I see in my work. But talk to me what impact means to you guys. Obviously having 16 staff members, holy guacamole, like from an investor grant standpoint, you're like, wow, I want to bet on these guys. But what does impact look like to you?
It's those hands-on moments when you see the light bulb go off and suddenly they get it. And it's those genuine, intimate moments that have that bigger impact to me. I told Diane the other day, I had a moment. I'm walking through the studio. I have my little bag with me. I'm getting ready, and I have my class starting soon. And I walk through the actual studio, and our filmmaking teacher is there, and he's got his group of students in front of him. And there's some people who know me, so they kind of look up and they give me a little wave. And I kind of stop for a moment because he was in this, tell us your story. What film are you going to make this semester? And there's two adults with autism in the program and five or six just neurotypical in the program. We're very inclusive. They all work together. And to see the support in there as one of them got up and was sharing what they were hoping to be the story they were going to tell this semester. And I just kind of looked around and went, wow, look what we built. And so
Right.
I kind of came back into my office and I was going through scripts and I could just look out, my window looks out over the studio and I could just look out and see they were all just so into this story and they're all supporting each other as they shared their ideas for the semester. And we
Oh,
have an amazing award-winning filmmaker who comes in and teaches our program for that. And just to see them all light up, sharing each other's stories, that to me was impactful. I'm like,
right.
they are going to take away so much from this next 16 weeks that they're going to be making this little short films. I just loved it.
Oh, I love that. Well, and when you give when you give a student, no, I'm the one with the background noise because the dog is now deciding that the Amazon person's here. The one thing that I cannot control is the Amazon delivery schedule. The one thing that, when you give a child the skills, when you give them the fishing pole and not the fish, and you give them the life skills to be successful, which you guys are doing. I mean, that's an immeasurable thing. It's just it's the greatest joy to watch that blossom I get to do that in my work, and so I completely relate to what you're saying. So, Diane, talk to me. I know you guys cannot be an entrepreneurs without having dreams, and you can't even be a nonprofit founder without having them because it all starts with one child or two or five, as you guys did. And it just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing and expanding, just like your physical footprint keeps getting bigger and your staff and all these things. So talk to me, like if you had one dream for the organization, what is that? For JDS, what does that look like?
Well, we really created JDS Creative Academy to outlive us, to have the legacy that really goes on and will continue even after we've kind of, hung up our hats, in that sense. So that's a lot. What I'm working towards right now is really trying to take our mission of the arts and what it does, create more nonprofits around that do these kind of workforce development training programs for adults with developmental disability using skills that will just benefit you, teach you dexterity, communication, writing, reading, being able to put some professional job skills with it so they could do some of, they can find their own independence and thrive.
Right.
So that's really the goal of the nonprofit, is to really be able to self-sustain itself so we don't have to be the ones sustaining it in the longevity of it. So that's kind of my wish and dream, and what we're kind of working towards is figuring that out. How does this all live on behind beyond us? Some of our other senior board members and founding board members who have been here, were we are all looking upon what is next for some of
Right.
us, and we
Right.
don't want at the same time for us to go to what is next for us and not be able to make sure that this can live on from what we started. So that's really where we're at, in making sure that it can continue without us.
It's a beautiful dream. Scott, you have something to add to the dream scene?
Yeah, just using improv, we also work on the soft skills and watching their communication grow to where they're more comfortable, like asking questions, more comfortable in a social situation. That to me, I think, is what will live on well past us, is that they
And
will
it's
grow to
so
be more
needed.
comfortable, right?
Right?
Just more comfortable in society that sometimes doesn't always accept them or doesn't always have the patience to allow someone to form the question they want to ask.
It is such a critical skill. I run a youth leadership organization where our college students teach our high school students, and our high school students teach our middle school students. And after COVID, especially when I had a group of hundreds of sixth and seventh graders, and we're doing an icebreaker, and they couldn't make eye contact. They had forgotten what it was like being with other kids. They couldn't put their hand out. They were afraid to touch. I mean, there was so many pieces, and we still continue to see just these basic communication skills are really not as developed as they used to be. I've been doing my work for 13 years, and that however you teach it through the arts, however it's done, it's so important. So bravo, bravo, bravo. That's a skill that will save them through life. I mean, absolutely. So talk to me, Diane, about what life lessons you've learned in the 13 years you've been doing this work, because there is a
Patience.
lot. Patience
Patience.
is a good
Yes.
one.
It is a skill I am forever practicing, is patience, but I think that it really has taught me patience. I come from the go Hollywood, the win lose culture, then entrepreneurship, you've got to do it all and get it done, to then bringing on a team, going from being a mom and pop kind of production company to then having to bring on a team and learn patience and communication skills that you thought that you had, but you had to really learn how to be clearer and find that clarity. And then, so with the patients, I think kindness has grown and compassion has grown, and um, just looking at things in a different perspective from an all around, even somebody who has dyslexia, who really tried for most of my life to hide that and find ways around it so it didn't stop me and wasn't something that, I found tools that got me to a point to where computers came on the market and spelling could then
I
be
remember
fixed by a
that.
computer, and
The 3-hour date when
Grammarly.
the spell check kept going, you would leave and come back and it would still be doing it. I
Exactly.
remember.
So I'm grateful for those things because it started to make my life easier.
Right.
And now even just being able to be more open and honest and share those things because, it wasn't something that, you know, it was something that I hid and never talked about until,
Right.
until all of a sudden it was like, wow, it's okay, and why glasses can help just in stopping everything from bouncing for me, so
Right. Right.
patience and kindness and more openness and, um, those are life lessons that I am so grateful for. So.
Amen. Scott, what about you? What have you learned since starting this work?
Well, the leadership comes in different forms. And the way you lead in a highly competitive arena is different than how you lead in a nonprofit space that,
Right.
is a teaching environment. And I think I know, like looking at Diane, she was always a go-getter, always on the move, very strong-willed, very like, boom, we can get this done, and this is how we're going to do it. So I watched her grow into someone much less guarded, much more open, much more giving. And that in turn created this leader that really developed a team that wants to be with her and wants to work for her. And that was the difference. As we first started taking on employees, it was difficult because there was a lot of headbutting. And Diane and I said, well, this is a nonprofit. We have to do it this way, and this is what it's going to be. And not everybody agrees with your vision in the beginning. Not everybody can
Right.
see that vision. So we had a lot of, struggles and building it and da 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 da, and still having people say, "Hey, we want to bring more. We want more students in your program." And we're like, "Well, hold on. Let us
Right.
let
Right.
us get our ducks in a row here." Because 5 went to 10 really quickly. And when more of their counselors found out what we were doing, suddenly we had application, application, application. So
A
finding
good and
my
bad
own
problem
style.
because we can never meet the need, right? We can never meet the
Exactly.
need. And when we realize we can never meet the need, there's this moment when we realize, oh, no matter how many we take, we can't meet it. So we have to just take what we can take because we can only do so much, right? I mean, it's not that we don't want to do more, it's that we only have the resources to do what we can do, right? So,
And
Right.
and
building the
build it,
team
yeah,
that wants to be here, understands the nonprofit space, and
right,
allowing them to be creative.
right.
Our editors and our filmmakers and our creative designers, they want that freedom to just be creative. And
Right.
the all hands on deck really means that now. Like they have no problem stopping what they're doing and jumping in to move this or move that or, take some fabric over here and let's dress this part of the studio. They're all very excited when it's time to like, oh, what do we get to do today?
Uh,
And it wasn't
so
always
I
like
always,
good.
that.
I always say
Yeah.
you can tap a keyboard as easy as you can be tapping a nail with a hammer at this place.
Yeah.
But that's so great because the energy must feed everything. When you have that creative energy, it just stirs the soul and wants you to do more, and it ignites you, right? It feeds you. So it's so great. So do you think you've changed, Diane, since starting this, going down this path?
Oh, sure. Yeah. I mean, the impact has been felt in all different places in our life, our kids' lives, our business life. It's been I always tell, and those that business leaders that I coach and train and do that, the more you serve, the more you give, the more you will receive too. And
Amen.
and I have received immensely from, yes, the wonderful, the honors, the awards, the accolades, those, are so fun and inspiring in the moment. And, but when, you were talking about the impact when, you know, I can lay my pillow down at night and know that, somebody is getting an opportunity to live their dream, to be able to pursue something that they didn't think that they would have a chance to. We've seen individuals get placed into internships and get jobs. And when their families come and say, they didn't really speak at home, and now they come home and tell me
Oh,
what they did every day, and
oh,
how you see that, how, I always go by hope, help one person every day, because it really has that ripple effect of when we help someone here during the day, and then they go home and help their families, and they now participate and show up more in their life, and makes it easier for the families to all coexist, and the burdens release. And so that's great. I mean, things that stories, we've had people meet and get married, and we've had people, go off and start other production companies and impact others and create things to impact and do things. So it's just,
those are our
it,
paydays.
yeah,
That
Yeah.
it
those are
changed.
how that's how we get paid. It changes you, right?
Yeah.
It does. Forgive me for interrupting you, that it changes you. And Scott, do you think that you've changed? Do you think you're the
Oh
same
yeah.
guy? Do you think you've
Oh yeah.
changed?
Well, I mean, deep down, I'm still the goofball actor that just wants to play. But being able to put that into my leadership and not like I was guarded too, the same as Diane, it took a while for me to kind of open up and be silly again because I thought, well, now, I'm my production company and now I'm a nonprofit and I had to be like a certain way, but to be able to really open up to my staff, make them laugh and play and things like that, that just, 8 years ago, it wasn't like that. 10 years ago really wasn't like that. And the
I
freedom
love
to just
that.
be who we are and show how much we love the arts and how it affected our lives and to show everyone else. And even, there's a lot of business owners that we've been coaching a gentleman who is very successful in real estate and he's in Toronto, Canada. And after a marketing thing, we were on this marketers cruise we were doing. We were exiting the boat, we're in line, and he kind of leaned over and said, I always wanted to be an actor. I did theater when I was younger. I always wanted to be an actor. Do you think you could coach with me a little bit? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. And now it took Diane really breaking him down for a little bit to say he's not a real estate agent who sometimes acts. He's now an actor who sometimes does real estate.
Oh, interesting. I
And he's
love
been
that.
booking gigs. He's going to have a major motion picture coming out. He's been on all these different shows. He's just doing amazing up there in Canada and breaking into the industry. And to see him light up, his biggest moment was he always thought his mother would reject him doing this because when he was young, it's like you need a real job, right? You can't just be an
Right.
actor. You need a real job. So once Diane kind of got him to a certain place in that side of it, he finally told his mom. And she lit up and told him, "Oh, I loved acting when I was young. I always wanted to do that. I'm so happy for you." Exact opposite of what he was
Right.
expecting,
What
like
he
maybe a
thought,
little
right?
negative or anything.
Right.
So, and now he's got his nephews are auditioning, they're booking commercials up in Canada. So it's not only affected his
It's
life
a
and turned
ripple
him around,
effect,
but in
right?
his family, they're all like, "Yay, let's do it!" And that to me is the biggest impact in one year
You
The
to have
know,
him
power,
like be
right?
successful.
And I
the
do think
power
in
of the
that
arts.
Right. And the power of helping someone who then wants to help somebody else. And Diane, you said the same thing, and Scott, you're saying in a different way, but the same thing, that when you help one person every day, they go on and they help the next person. And the ripple effect that we create when we do the simplest kindnesses or something that we just think is a gift, you helping actors is just natural to you. You don't even think of doing it. It's like breathing. It's something you've been doing forever, but that totally changed the trajectory of his life, and now he's changing trajectory of somebody else's. And that's the power of these conversations, and that's why it's so important that we have them to inspire other people who are listening to realize that A, it's never too late to change.
Yep.
B, it's never too late to help somebody. And C, you can always change for good, like my book title, shameless plug incoming, because that's how it happens. That's how we change for good. That's how we make the world better, is literally that one small act of kindness at a time. So I love the way you are using the arts to change lives. I'm so excited. Tell us how we can support you. Tell us where we can find you, where we can donate, where we can volunteer, what you have going on and coming up. Give us all of it. I don't know, Diane, Scott, you guys decide who's gonna wrap this one up.
Diane's
Well,
got it.
I would love to share with you guys about a festival we have coming up. It's called DigiFest, and this is a great place to be able to be amongst the arts, the creativity, the digital magic. We have industry leaders that come out and speak and present and perform, as well as it's a competition. It's a place to learn. It's a place to be seen. It's a place to show up. It's April 24th, 25th, and 26th here in Temecula, California. So you want to go to digifesttemecula.org and to find out everything that goes on here at the nonprofit, you want to go to jdscreativeacademy.org, and then you can learn about our programs and our initiatives. And definitely grateful for all donations, but donations come in many ways. Not all donations need to be financial. It's following us on social media, liking, sharing, getting the word out, showing up. We have lots of free education for adults with developmental disabilities to learn about more independence and how to get more involved in the arts. So follow us. The hashtag JDS family is the best way to find us all over the internet and social media. And we just love to connect with others.
I love that. Well, I love what you are doing. I love the way you are bringing joy and the arts and excitement and gifts to so many people who are going out and creating a huge ripple effect in this world. So thank you so much for sharing your story with us, and thank you for everything you're doing. What a gift you are.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Charity Matters podcast. I so enjoy talking to Diane and Scott Strand and hearing how their work is truly changing lives. I love the comment about hope. Help one person every day. I think it's something I'll be thinking about long after this conversation. If you'd like to learn more about today's guest or other modern day heroes, visit us at charity-matters.com or connect with us on Instagram at Charity Matters. And if this episode inspired you, please share it with someone you care about. And don't forget to subscribe or leave a review. This is how we help these stories reach more hearts. But more than anything, thank you for caring, for believing in goodness, and being a part of our movement. You are exactly what the world needs more of. Remember, together, we can make a difference, one small act of kindness at a time. Charity matters. See you next time.